Hey, Pastor Mike here. Before we get started with today's episode, have you heard of the podcast called Bible Threads? My colleague, Dr. Bruce Becker, loves to go deep into the scriptures and share his incredible biblical research with you. Search for Bible Threads wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Now, on to today's episode.
Wouldn't it be great if it was all over? If we could just go back to simpler times? Our world has been changed forever, and a lot of it is not for the good. I don't know how many times I've heard that over the last few years, but it's been a lot, to say the least. If only we could just grab the remote control of life and just press stop and rewind, that place was a little bit more comfortable. They were better times. It doesn't work that way. I struggle to talk about that, especially with several of the old widows in my church. I think of a few in particular. They've lost their husbands, and they don't have as much purpose anymore. At least that's the way that they put it. Their kids are grown. They don't want to be a drag. And so they even get so far as to say, I don't know why God has me here. I just want to go to heaven. And part of that is not just that they miss their husband. That's fine and good. Part of that is not just that they feel like they're a drag on their family and so they don't want to be. That's normal. Part of it is because they look at a broken world like this and it's harder and harder for them on account of all of these negative changes for them to find joy. So, can't we just want to go to heaven? Well, that's not a bad thought. In fact, the Apostle Paul, when he's writing to the Philippians, he says that very thing. Listen to how he puts it. For to me, to live is Christ, and to die is gain. If I am to go on living in the body, this will mean fruitful labor for me. Yet what shall I choose? I do not know. I am torn between the two. I desire to depart. I desire to depart and be with Christ, which is better by far. Better by far, that's quite an understatement. I mean, think of what heaven is. Everything that you despise about this life, everything that you want erased, all of the pain and the turmoil and the division and the hatred and the disease, and we could go on and on with that list, all of that is gone, but that's not it. It's that every way that you would feel in every one of those circumstances with every one of the things on that list, heaven is the exact opposite. Fulfillment that's unparalleled, peace unknown, a love and a grace, standing in the presence of God, seeing Jesus face to face, perfect communion with everyone. I just feel so inept every time I try to describe heaven because you just can't. Not when you live in a broken world like this. But maybe that's why we need to fix our eyes on our Savior Jesus and remember that heaven is ours, that we're not left to this place. And yes, to depart and to be with Christ is better by far, and to think about those things, the greater things that we have in heaven, gives us a joy, once again, that this world can't give and that this world can never take away. Can you do something for me right now? As you think about departing and being with Jesus and all of your Christian loved ones in heaven, wouldn't it be wonderful if you could just do that? Can you just do one thing for me? Can you tell me what your heart rate is? Maybe you just had a doctor's appointment and you'd rather not think about it. Maybe you're unsure and you haven't found your heart rate in a while, but I have some really important news for you about your heart rate. Are you ready? You still have one. I know that's a terrible joke, but I have to say, if you're watching this video, you have one, which means that although it would be better by far to be in heaven, and everything that God has secured for you through his Son, Jesus Christ, is waiting for you, there is, as Paul said, fruitful labor for you. He actually goes on to say this. I desire to depart and to be with Christ, which is better by far, but it is more necessary for you, these Christians in Philippi, that I remain in the body. He knew somehow that he was probably going to get out of these chains, this imprisonment of sorts, and he had fruitful labor. And so do you. It's wonderful to think of heaven and all that is in store for you, but that is on God's timetable and not on ours. And so in the meantime, with every single heartbeat, there is profound purpose and work for you and for me to do. Do you know what that means for some of these older widows in my church? It means for some of them, and they think that this is the most meaningless and purposeless thing ever, but you be the judge. They will take cards and they will write anonymous encouragements and put them where they know specific individuals will find them. They will ask me for lists of people, and I will replace the names because they don't want to know, but I will write down the circumstance, and they will say, Lord, you know who this is. Lord, you know who this is. One lady in particular, she's in very bad health. And so every day it's a pain for her to take every single breath. So getting up and walking, it's agonizing. Every day, she walks over and she checks on her neighbor who's worse off than she. Purposeless? Meaningless? How about fruitful labor? And with every single heartbeat that you have right now, and although you long for heaven just as much, if not more than I do, maybe, God has given us so much to do. And it's necessary. Yes, God decides to work through us and to make us his hands and feet, his mouth, his ear to listen to people, his eyes to see the opportunities that are around us. It is like a playground out there, our world, especially as broken as it is, for Christians who are meant to thrive even here and now. Longing for heaven, but we have fruitful labor. So although we know that heaven is in store, God has so much work to do through us for the good of others. And he most certainly will carry that out, not only for our good, but for hopefully many more.